Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's three prakim Rambam, Hilchoi Shchenum, the laws of neighbors, prakim Zayin, Ches, and Tes. And we are beginning with Pedek Zayin. That's all about the rights of having windows. And we have been learning up until now that there is a hezek aspect to a window, which means if I place a window over your property or opening up towards your property, then I invade your privacy. But then there's the other side of a window, which is that once I have a window and sunlight, natural light is coming in, there are certain restrictions that you, my neighbor, might have of putting your own wall, your own stuff near my window, because you're going to prevent me from having the sunlight that I was accustomed to having. Pedek Shvi has 10 halachas, beginning with halacha Aleph, says the Rambam. Person already has a window in their wall. After I have a wall, you make a courtyard right underneath it, right adjacent to it. Now, the owner of the courtyard that came later cannot tell the owner of the window, listen, your window is overlooking or looking into my property, and therefore he cannot make such a claim. Why not? Because the owner of the wall already has chazaka. You understand? He already established his right to have a window over there. Now, furthermore, not only can the new Bal HaChatzer not demand of me to plug up my window, but if he's going to go ahead and build a wall right adjacent to my window, I have the right, the owner of the kaisel can tell him he can't build it over here. Why? In order for your new wall not to cast a shadow and to minimize or to limit the amount of natural light that I already have a chazaka in receiving through my window. Because that's the paper. Allah base. If the position of a window is in a lower part of the wall, so then there's two demands that I have. Going to more details. Number one, you have to move it away 4 amas. Again, like we said, for you not to cast a shadow. And also, that your building or your wall has to be higher 4 amas from my window. In other words, the height of the wall, the highest part of the wall, has to be 4 amas higher than the highest part of the window. In order for the Bal HaChatzer guys that came later, for the Bal HaChatzer not to be able to look through the window. It's mamish like everything flips now. Because I already established a chazak in having my window. You cannot build something that will allow you now to stand on it and look through my window. If, again, the original guy that was there with the kaisel had his window on a higher position in the wall, and my fellow built something, but it's underneath my window. Now that's very good, because number one, if my window is high and your wall is low, you're not casting a shadow. Number two, if it's very low, even if you stand on it, you won't be able to see through my window. So it's all from the height, from the top of the wall of this new Bal HaChatzer's wall, until the lowest part of my window, you have a height of 4 amas or more. So then you're not b'chlal infringing on my privacy. So me, the owner of the chaloin, forget about daladamas. It's mamash, touching. Both things are addressed. Not you're casting a shadow, nor ve'ena mazika b're'iyam. However, but if the height is less than the height from the top of the wall until the lowest part of my window, so then, even though you can say you're let's say Dova, you're the Bal HaChatzer, you can say you're not standing on your wall. I can say no. I don't want you to have even the ability to get on the wall. I don't know the law. Mamit says v'yashkiv min hachaloim. The Rambam means to say v'yashkiv through the chaloim. Yeah, in other words, you'll look into my house min hachaloim, through the window. Or two options: either make it lower, or make, like we mentioned, the top of your wall 4 amas taller than the top of my window. But then there's an issue of casting a shadow. So therefore, if you you're building one wall near a window. Now here we want to dedicate today's class a little push to Kavan. So I know that Kavan is going through a procedure. In our age, everything is called a procedure. So whatever that is, it should be ba'atzlacha. So I have a beautiful picture. I know that when the Gabbai, I think that he sent it to Danny. And if Danny is here, if you can post it.
Which picture? Which one?
The first one, the one that it's perpendicular. You have to see a picture where, what can I tell you? Okay, right. So then, in other words, guys, okay, I'll do it without a picture. Guys, you see this? Dovi, here, he didn't put it up. If this is my window, and you're building a wall like this, it's all about casting a shadow now. No, it's the wrong one. That's not the one. That's it. No, Danny, go to the right. No, the one to the right on the screen over here. Not that one, the other one. That's it. In other words, it's all about casting a shadow. You see the picture, you see the whole thing. Not that one. Danny, the one to the right, or what I call the right. Maybe that's it. That's halacha dalu. You have to put it away at tefach. Why? Not to cast the shadow. Now tefach is enough here. And another, so the tefach means that since you're only building one wall, if it's even only one tefach away, it's not going to take away halachically sufficient sunlight or natural light for me to complain. Number two, the height is important. Height is the same because the top of the wall has to be higher 4 amas than the top of my window. If not, you can stand on your wall and look at, bend down and look at. Or you make it so low. So it means 4 amas under the lowest part of my window. Halacha. Now goes the other picture. What's the other picture? One tefach is enough only if you're only building one wall. When you build 2 walls, then there's more shadow. Now no, it's Rechav Arba Amis, not between the edges of the window and the wall. You have to see the picture. Between the walls. Very good. And the Chalai should be Be'emsar Ha'arba. Another detail. Again, I'm the guy in the picture closer here. I'm going to build 2 walls. I can build trellises and I can put schach on it. So who cares if the walls were far enough away? The schach is going to cast a shadow. I can only start placing the schach 4 amas away. It's all the same 4 amas. For me not to cast the shadow. If I'm opening up a window to a chutzner of my friend, now we're talking about you had a chutzner already. I'm opening up a window. The fikach goes to the beginning of halacha aleph. Everything until now was because there was a balakoisel. There wasn't even the chutzner there. You came later. Now, fakir, the balachotzer has to be concerned with the balachaloim. But if first there was a chotzer, now comes the balachaloim, the balachotzer ma'akavala. Sharei oimeloi tazik libiriyah. You're invading my privacy. Now here, ta'afa pishi gavoya, right? The window that I'm building is tall. So l'chayda, right? In our case, we said until now that if there's 4 amas is enough. It's not true. It's if I have a house and you have a chotzer and that's my house, even if I build a window 10 amas tall, you're psychologically, you know that I can take a ladder. No one will see that. I can lean the ladder against my window. I can climb up, and you feel invaded. You don't feel comfortable. You're going to say, the Bala Chatzar is going to say, you have the ability of doing that, and that already, this enables me of feeling comfortable doing my private things in the Chatzar. Now, someone did that. They shouldn't have. But either he told him verbally, I'm okay with that, or he displayed some sort of willingness. How did he display that? He helped him build a window. He wasn't there. No, it doesn't only have to be when you're there actively. Could be you're not there actively, but everyone knows that you found out about it. silence is also considered, you acquiesce. So the din is, guys, now the guy creates an established chazaka. Not 2 years, not 3 years, guys. One moment. You knew about it. Certain things in life, guys, you have to understand. If it doesn't feel right to you, right away speak up. Halachically, it's very important that not speak up like a chaya, speak up edel. But say, like we don't want galus. That ever felt like there's something about we have to say we're not masking. Because once you gave in for one moment, now the case at Dina Shal Chazin, okay, if you did give in, like I think if you can put it on a mute by you, I think it's going to help. There's some holy noise behind you. If the size of the window, we're talking about the width and the height, is that a person can insert one's head in it, or it was lamatama arba amas, even though it's so small that you can't even insert your head in it. You get lichais halkop. The guy was moichel. Like everything we learned at the beginning of this chapter. Let's keep on going. But if the window that you gave into was so small that number one, number two, the window is higher than 4 ames. You know what the Baal HaChatzar was moichel? He was moichel for you to have a window. Because like we learned before, if you wouldn't be moichel, you can build a little window high up. But Baal HaChatzar Yachel Livnis connected with still down. But the Baal HaChatzar never gave up that much. He's still allowing himself to build right near it. Like this. That what I gave into, in other words, I gave in to you because of one thing. I did not feel that little window so high is going to invade my privacy. That I was moichel. But I am not giving up any rights in my chutzner for you to claim later that you need the natural light. I want to be able to build anywhere in my yard. Bishop, that the person can make such a claim. The Baal HaChatzar, I never was masking, right, for me to give up my rights, which will disallow me of building because I'm going to cast the shadow. That's only if the window was opened up latashmish. Now, how do you know that, guys? If you can push it, you know that. When someone opens up a window, sometimes, let's say the guy in the Baal HaKoisel and the Baal HaChatzar, they're chavedim. Just give me an example, and they like schmoozing. You can see, like, just an example, and they can't talk. You can't hear properly. So they say, you know what? Why didn't you open up a hole in the wall? We can hear each other better. Well, there are times that you can know why they opened it up. The reason why they made a window was in order for the house to have more air, and not for sunlight. Of course, guys, every window also allows light to come in, but that was not the ikar purpose. If the main purpose was Pesach Allah, I know. And again, the Baal HaChatzar could have been ma'arid, but he wasn't. Even on that. And now that he follows the rules that we learned in this chapter, which is that so just this in itself is good to chap. Right away you were moichel and you can't go back on that. What were you moichel? You have to see.
The shape of the window also. If it's for light, it's that shape where the light comes in.
Okay, so Novi is saying another nukuda that like the Rambam is not saying how you know. Sometimes from the way, like in the base Hamikdash, Kufay Satumais, they have this concept, the outer part, the inner part, wider, narrower. There are many ways. Sometimes you can know one side, sometimes you can know the other side. Okay, right. Now, in any other case where a person already has an established chazaka to have a window. Like on the opposite. So now that we learned the Akir, just a simple rule. If I have a window, you cannot come and do something that Aleph will cast the shadow, the neighbor, the chatzah. Beis, you cannot put something so close to my window which will allow you to stand on your wall and look into my window. You can't do it. But if you did it, I have to be ma'arid. I have to make a protest. And if I did not make a protest, it goes in that direction also. That means that I was masking. And then I cannot change my mind. It goes both ways. She'ein adam asui. The behavior of healthy people that have at least a minimum amount of self-confidence is that if someone is coming and they're taking away your light, you're going to be quiet. You're only doing that not because I was not comfortable to speak up. Someone is laughing. I don't know why you're laughing. Okay, we go from younger. I think the silence. Many people think it's because they want to be nice. They want to be edel. You can be nice and you can be edel and you can make a macha. You can make just a macha with a smile. Make a macha with a shmeichel. You have to learn how to do it. It's no big deal. Halacha 8. If a person has windows in the lower part of his wall, the guy wants to build a building that would block, and the guy knows he can't do it. So the neighbor who wants to block offers, listen to me. I'm going to build a building. I know that what I plan to build will cast a shadow. Well, in your wall, I'm gonna do out of my pocket. I'm gonna add more windows. So the din is why? That listen, you're gonna make new windows in my wall. At that time, you will shake the ganze wall, right? You're bringing out new windows, and you might ruin it. So the guy says, listen, I'll have a better idea. I'll take down your wall. And I'll build you a new wall with windows higher up. And the Esso boy in the new wall, and I'll tell you more than that. When I take your wall down, you can't comfortably live there. While I'm doing it, I will pay for you in the fancy hotel over here. Now, when I was in yeshiva, the Sheraton was like Beck's Hotel. Here in LA, they're telling me the Sheraton is Tamak garnished with that hotel. I'll put you up in the nicest place. No, the guy can say, I don't want to be inconvenienced. But there's one thing, guys. The moment the scenario is such where I will not be inconvenienced, me not allowing is called Sodoim. So there is a limit to that. Like, if my wall is not the wall of my house, it's not the wall of a yard. And what you are offering is taka not going to inconvenience me. There is a point where I cannot say no. It's called koifen al midas sodaim. That's such a beautiful Jewish halach. There is a limit. Not since it's mine, I can say no. No. The koifen I say sheyach avere sheisim chaloim zulamata, v'oisuloi chaloim lamayla. Now, lochayda the Rambam means by building a new wall. It doesn't mean in the same wall because that can weaken the wall. And no, every case is the case. Shazu midas sodaimi. And v'chein, this is a big cloud. Kol dover shezen nehen boy. The ein chaverei mafsid v'loy chaser klum. Then the Beis Din steps in and the guy is forced. You're not losing. That person is benefiting. Given. Halacha 9. Avo balachaloim. Let's go in the other direction. So I'm the balachaloim. I already have a chazaka to have a window. I want to change my window, whether lamayla, be lamata. Even if my change l'chu'ura is to your betterment, I had a bigger window, and I'm telling my neighbor, listen to me. I already have a chazaka of this window. I'm going to open up another window, but I'm going to close this. I'm going to open up another one that's smaller. Balachaloim ma'akev olav. Now, guys, 1 second. If I am not moving my window, if I'm simply making my window smaller, of course I can do it. We're speaking about I'm moving it. I'm telling you, I'm going to close up this one. The guy, the balachatzer says, no, I got used to the window where it is. But on the other corner, that's where I do my private stuff. I don't want a window there. You have no chazaka for that. It goes without saying you can't widen it. Any addition is not allowed. Final halach in this chapter, halach yut shnei achim shechol kol chatzim yimidatom. This is a gemara, almost standalone halach. The case here, the example here is you have a Yerusha, Tfusa Sabayis, and then let's say there were two brothers and there came a point where they want to divide their estate. Now it's interesting that the way they are choosing to make the division, let me give you two options. One option is that these are people that are not so medagdik. They're making a division, but they're not totally precise. Sometimes people, it's the way their Hashem made them, very cheap by nature, Nebuch, everything has to be exact. Each one is making sure that no one is getting the better of them. If that is their attitude, there's going to be a big consequence now. And the Rambam is going to speak it out beautifully. which is not the way many people make a division. I'm not even talking about to be moichel money. It's more than that. It's a certain amount of precision that we see they need to have. Everyone has to have exactly the same. Now, what happens if v'lo yishgichu al shumas ha'avad?
The question is why by tzaddikim is a ma'ala and here it's a chesaron.
I'm not saying it's a chesaron. Let's finish this halach. It's not as a chesaron. One part of the window of this chapter was that a window allows for natural light to come in, and therefore you cannot cast the shadow. This is very similar. There is value to have an open area. There is value to that. But it's only valuable if you find it valuable. If in their division, the case will be one person has a chutzner, which is an open space area, and the other took something that's exactly the same value, an achsadra is some sort of area, patio, that's walled off by 2 or even 3 parts, and it's partially roofed. One person agreed to go into a place that's partially roofed. That means that he didn't say, no, if it's roofed, you are under the kippas hashamayim. They didn't give value to that. They expressed through now, if people are not so medagdik, it doesn't prove anything. But if people are very medagdik and they were not medagdik for this, it shows that they don't care about open space. They did not add any value to the fact that, and the truth is objectively, open space has just the fact that you're living in an open space, there's more value, there's more air, there's more light. Now, one person received part, he got a tarbet zachatz, some sort of a garden. Garden is an open area, guys. And the exact, what did the other guy get in its place? He got an achsadra, which is, like we said, it's a roofed or at least a partially roofed area. Now, Im rotza bal hachotzer, who also has this tarbas hachotzer, livnois koisel b'soid chelkan, and he's going to build it right near the achsadra, even though that wall is going to cast the shadow on the entire achsadra. Unlike everything we learned until now, since they showed that they don't give that much value to the open space, the guy of the achsadra cannot say you got to move away 4 hours. The guy says, no, it's not true. You never cared about having an open space. You were masking to take the achsadra, which to begin with is a lot darker than the chutzner, and you never brought it up. And everything else you brought up. Is it? That's
the measure.
Yes. The concept is good. The application, hard to measure it. I know. Chazal didn't tell you how to measure always. They told you the idea, the concept. In the later generations, then the Torah happens, then you have the big Rabbanim, they knew how to apply it.
Also, no chazaka that's passed down. This is how it was. From my father, I have a chazaka, you're not putting a wall.
That we already learned yesterday, 2 days ago. Since the Rambam paskins that Chalukah is not Bereda, Chalukah is Lukucha, that's why there's no grandfather rights. I want to say different. If yeah, exactly. No, had they had 2 guys bought a property, one or the other, then they would be able to say, you can't do that. You're casting a shadow. You're darkening my area. Since they made a chalukah, and we saw that their way of making a chalukah was no one was mavatar on anything, and they never took this into the cheshbon. That means they don't care about it. You never care. You cannot decide to care about it now. Okay, right. Perek Shmini.
The guy that got that son, got the wanted it, obviously. The other brother came in, let him have it. That means he did. He
yeah, because then you're saying so good, because I know you, the Gabbai, you're very generous. Exactly. You cannot relate to it. Thank you. Because you give in. You know, we had the basin has.
I'm saying that the guy that got it, he wanted that. So now,
Danny, if the guy would have been wired, not like you, when he took the achsadra, he would say, 1 second, I want something, the achsadra, plus I want the candlesticks. Because since my achsadra has less open space, you're getting something more than me. It's not fair.
And you see, if we could say, okay, I just want this area to be shaded, and I'm happy with that area being shaded, but this area I want the light to come from.
It could be in certain scenarios, in certain subcategories, they'll say that. But we're going to the bigger concept. When people showed before that they don't give value to the fact that the place is open or closed, it's almost like they were Michael. Perek Shmini is now about unbelievable permits that are automatically given when you are moichel for someone to use the airspace over your chutzah. They say, don't give a finger, because when you give a finger, they're going to take a hand. We're going to have some of this in this chapter over here. Perek Shmini has 9 halachas. Halach aleph. Hamabakish l'hoitzi ziz mikois le'yalav chatzah chaveri kolshu. So guys, I have a house that's mamish neighboring your chutzah. And for whatever reason, for construction reasons, there is a certain beam that it will be advantageous for me, Danny, I'm the balabayas, for my beam to go over your airspace. So first of all, the guy who has the chutzner has the right to stop it, and should, if he doesn't want the guy to be there. Bal ha'chutzner ma'akav olav. We learned in the last Perek Midas Sodoim, it's not Midas Sodoim. The moment you, let's say, if I'm the Bala Chatzah, you're the Bala Bais, if you have anything going over my airspace, whether it's 5 amos over my head, whether it's 100 amos over my head, it's darkening. I'm not under the Kippas HaShamayim. It's casting a shadow, right? Sharei Mazika. 1 second. More than that. Forget about casting a shadow. I take that back. The guy, no, not Avir. The guy that has the beam can now go on his beam. If you go on your beam, you're going to look down on my chutzner. When you're going to use your beam, you're going to have access, and therefore, let's keep on going. There's a picture for this. I don't know. Yeah, soon. Not there yet, but leave it there already. Like we learned in the last chapter, it's not like for you to establish a chazaka, you have to have it for 3 years. These things, if you don't make a machal right away, now let's go further. Let me tell you how much the balaziz gets. Don't think he only gets what he took. He gets a lot more than he took. He gets a lot more than he took. You learn this, you'll have to swallow this. You have to get used to this. The balaziz has the right of using all of the airspace under the ziz to the point that the bala chotzer cannot use that space. If the ziz has a tefach, so halacha aleph is you can't even be moitza ziz kolshu. But if the ziz wasn't just kolshu, it was a whole tefach, which is nothing, but it's a tefach or more. What's the owner of the ziz has established the right, guys, to the empty space under the ziz all the way down to the ground. Not on the ground, which he can hang his talis cotton there. He can hang his talis gadol there. But he has the right, because that's what people do the ziz for. And if the balachatzer wants to build now something which will happen to be under the ziz, but by doing so, you won't be able to hang anything there because he's going to build it. He's not going to take away your ziz. He's just going to build something up all the way to the bottom of the ziz. He cannot do that. Mitamol, the balaziz becomes against a balabos. Balaziz ma'akav.
Renters in LA.
However, this right is only if there's a tefach. What's a tefach to me? Like it's because maybe in the construction buildings, like sometimes things go out a little bit. Don't worry about that. You have the right to have it there. You have the right to hang stuff there if there's room. But if the balachatzer did something else, you lost. If it's less than a tefach, then ein balaziz, the ganze balabasir. Yochel akavolov. Some people take ownership. In other words, you give mamash, you give them like this. Be careful. Allah yigim. Now let's start speaking about width. Before we spoke about the projection, right? This is itself. Now, if it's wide, a tefach, that was the first picture that the gabbai. We don't say halkap that the guy only got the rights to under the ziz. He gets much more than that. If it's one tefach protruding, the picture to the left, and 4 tefachim, he gets 4 by 4. The guy is kicking out the balachatzer soon. This balzen. And what does it mean? That he can now make this bigger. If he wants to make it wider, who's the balametzer? I don't know why the Rambam changes the lashon. The balametzer means the balachatzer. Now the Rambam is writing another detail. And I think, Danny, this goes back to the beginning of this Peder. When you say that the Baal HaChatzer cannot build anything underneath it, what does that mean? What does it mean? Guys, if my ziz, let's say on the Baal ziz, my ziz is 10 amos above the ground. It's 15 feet, 18 feet above the ground. You can't build anything underneath it. The Rambam is defining. The Baal HaChatzer cannot build something that will be high enough, that's going to go high enough, that there won't be a space of 10 tfachim between the top of that building and the bottom of the ziz. Because if you left 10 tfachim, then the Baal HaChatzer could build. At least it limits. This doesn't only go here, this goes to the beginning of the chapter. If a person is going to put a small ladder, how do you define the small ladder? It does not even have 4 rungs. And he's putting it b'tzad koisloi. He's putting it on the side of his wall, but not on his property. Certain people just are mispasha. They go all over the place. I'm putting something on your property leaning on my wall. Whether it's in my neighbor's chatzar, whether it's in my neighbor's sadeh. So we don't say that since the owner of the land did not make a protest, forever I can leave my ladder there. Narvos then, he has the rights to do whatever he needs to do in his property, even if what he's going to add now will completely take away the space for me to continue to put my ladder there. But that's only because the ladder that I placed was so little. You're not protesting it, it's because it was tama nothing. There was nothing to protest against. So you're not protesting doesn't mean anything. But the definition of that means then Hersik, once knowing and not protesting, you have a chazak. You know what Hersik means? Again, I placed it on your land. If you want to build something there, which will not allow me to put the ladder, there won't be a place, I'll stop you. Baal hasulam ma'akavalav achayarchi kishir. The Rambam doesn't say what the shir is, but whatever the ladder was being used for, whatever the building is, it should not take away that tashmish. And therefore, just as a rule, which is something that was probably very common, that I own the house and I own the chutzner and you own the gag. And the way you would get to your gag was by outside of the building, by you putting a ladder on my chutzner. I should know. Don't allow it that quick. I need to understand, what does it mean to be nicer? If I'm going to say, yeah, you can put your ladder here, I have to understand what that means. That means that I will never be able to do anything in my chutzner that will take away your ability of putting the ladder. That's if you're trying to put a big ladder. Now, by the way, you know what? How are you going to get to your gag, Yakir? You'll have to pay me. I'll say, listen, allowing you to put a ladder really means halachically that I can never do anything in this thing, and you always will have such a right. So I'm charging you more money. I'm explaining why I want more money. It's not stam, what do I care? Zenez would only mean that if I would want to tell you to remove the ladder, you would have to remove the ladder. I don't lose that much. But since I will never be able to get rid of the ladder, so I have to be careful. Now, if you put a small ladder, anything that you do that's Zenez Alechasem, because the Baal of the ladder, which is the Baal Agag, is telling the Baal of Bas and the Baal Chatzer, ain't Alecha was a hefsed. Like, what do you care? What I'm doing now, you're not using the prop, and whenever you want to use it, I'll have to move. And Kozman Shatir Tzatavatloy. Halachei. Another rights in your neighbor's property. You have a drain pipe. Water is like the biggest challenge when you build something. It's gavaldik. I neighbor with you. There is a drain pipe, and I want to place now the drain pipe in a position that when it rains, the water goes into your property. Now, by the way, that's a good thing and that's a bad thing. Good thing, it's a bad thing because some people say they don't want to have water flooding their property. The good thing is that some people want water in their property. And the chazaka goes both ways. The chazaka will go both ways. If no one made a protest, it means aleph, that I can leave the drain pipe there, but beis, I cannot remove it because that water is yours. At least So the din is why? I'm doing it with I know that doing this means the water is gonna flow down into the neighbor. He made some sort of gutter. Again, it's also a device which will not allow the water to naturally roll down the walls of the house. And yes, it's going to gather the water, and the water will be going on the neighbor's property. So first of all, the neighbor doesn't have to allow. And now, if he was not ma'akev, and now, what's the pshat? Now that you have a chazaka, like we said, it's a two-way street. Number one, if the person who placed the sinner wants to change it, wants to close it, the Baal HaChatzar says, it's not a one-way right, it's a two-way right. The Baal HaChatzar says, you can't do that. No. I allowed for the water to go into my property, even though it means that sometimes I'll get flooded, it's because there's an advantage for me. I allowed it because I own that advantage. Because the guy one time who knew about it was not the ma'arer, right? Was not moicha. Likewise, this is beautiful. He Ki'ilu owns the rights of the water that's coming from the roof.
So you can apply to the other cases also. Let's say the ladder is the chazaka. I say, I was using the ladder also. Now if I don't want you to move a ladder that's chazaka in my property, I can someone else will need it.
I think you have to find a better application, but yeah. Okay. I don't like your example, but let's go right there. The concept here. Now, what would you machzik in another detail? You are not machzik for the drain pipe to be bidiyuk where it is. If I want to make a change in the drain pipe, guys, in the gutter, and you know what the bottom line will be? The end of the day will be the water will still go to you. Alama, it won't go on the right side, it's going to go on the left side. I'm making a shinui. Or it was long, so when it went into your chutzner, it went 2 feet into your chutzner. I want to make the pipe a little bit shorter. It's still going to go into your chutzner. Then ein bala chutzner yachal akav. The nuance of it has to remain exactly where it is. That not. That the water should go into his chutzner. Like we learned with the ziz, ein bal hagag yachol la'akiv olav, because the tzinor is not like a ziz, where we said that having a ziz also means you have the right to use that. To say it's only l'kiluach hamayim. Halacha vav. Right, you cause the water to go from your roof. It's going on the chatzah like we have been learning, and you were not moicha. And as we explained, that gives you a right to hechzik b'davar zeh. Now, if the water was dripping means it's going into your property in several places. V'ratza goes again, the owner of the roof. He wants to change his drainage system. Again, all of the water will go to you, but instead of going onto your property in several places, it's going to go into one place. Now here it's a bigger chiddush than before. Before we spoke about changing the location. You know, you might have thought, guys, listen, that if I'm the chutzner and I was masking, could be I was masking because I don't have water gushing in one place. It's dripping in, and it's dripping on the whole width. That's why I was masking. And now that you want to make you the Bal Hagag, you want to change your drainage system, and now all of the water will still come into my chutzner, but it's going to come into one place. One might have thought I never agreed to that. We don't say that. The Bal Hagag could do that. The Chenim was coming in the Makam Echad. And the Bal Hagag is going to change the system on this roof, and now all of the water will go into the neighbor, but it's dafka not going to come in from one pipe. The entire kaisa. And now it's noitvim, or more. If the owner of the gag is building some sort of slanted canopy, which will make the waters descend with more force. You would have thought that the Baal Chatzar can say, I was not moichen, because the water was coming in gently. It was coming in over a larger area. Now it's coming in one area. Now it's coming in with force. We don't say that, because these are the rules. Halacha zayin. Chatzar shebeinu uven v'shimen. I'm sorry, Kaisel. I need some more coffee. L'chaim. Kaisel shebeinu uven v'shimen. If Reuven and Shimon share ownership in that wall, so Shneim Mishtam Shemboy, both of them have the equal rights to use it, meaning what such using was very common there. Right, the guy in this side of the wall, Reuven on his side, can make hollows into the wall, and he can use it to put beams in there. Kol shehein doesn't mean little, it means little or big. Little holes, big holes, you can make use of the wall. But if the wool only belonged to one, ain't Shimon Yachal Ishtamish by. We're all speaking about when you can do something and you do it, and the other guy doesn't make a macho, it means he was masker. So he dug a hole, not just digging a hole, he already stuck something in there when Reuven knows about it. And still, yet, the Shasek Reuven now Shimon has a right. And let me tell you what Hechzik. We don't say he only has the right for exactly what he did. We don't say that. He can even change the width of the koida. Again, you give a little bit, it gives him more rights. And the Ratza Shimon lahachlifa b'koida gedola ve'ava, he can be machliv. Because we understand that the mechilas Reuven wasn't that limited. It wasn't that cheap. Once he was, you can use it. Reuven, I know it's a strong wall. Had both of them owned it, nothing will happen to the wall if Shimon puts in bigger beams. Once he was Michael for everything. We are, this Pedic is interpreting how much of a mechila you made, even though you didn't know you made it. Good. If the beam that Shimon put in there was part of some sort of temporary sukkah, guys, we're not speaking about sukkahs. We'll see clearly not. We're speaking about stam. A guy has some sort of temporary hut they built on somewhere. When it got very hot, they would build as a hut not to be in the shade. So then we say that for the first 30 days, even though Reuven, who knew about it, was not moicheh, it doesn't mean that he allows him to use it, because Reuven understood that this is something temporary. It's only listen, but not for you to have a permanent right. But if Shimon, who built a hut, a simple hut, but he left it there for more than 30 days, the whole hut is as a temporary structure. Anything you do for more than 30 days by default is not called aray. You were moichel. Now, when do we say that 30 days is the cutoff? That's for everything other than the mitzvah, the ritual of a sukkah. We say the same logic, but only for a week. In other words, if I allowed you, I'm Reuven, you're Shimon, to use my wall for sukkahs, I'm not moichel because it's sukkahs. But if you left it there for one day after sukkahs, not 30 days, so it's not for sukkahs, then I was moichel. Take down your sukkah right away. Kol shivas yemei stam. It's a good. Kol shivas v'yachag lo yachzik. Huh?
Good incentive to take.
But but here, if I catch, Shimon has an incentive not to take it down.
Yes, to say something right away.
Yes, I'm right away.
Say something.
That's it. It doesn't have to take it down. Reuven has to say, "I'm moicha." Again, moicha can be with the biggest smile. To say, "Listen, you can take it down today. Take it down in a week. I'm not giving up any rights to my wall. This is my wall." But the moment Shiva, forget about 30 days, a quarter of that, less than a quarter, then Hechzik. Now, in both of these cases over here, of the sukkah's aray and the ritual sukkah, if Shimon, whatever he did, was not just putting something in a hole in a wall, but he fixed it in the place with tit, that's it. Miyad Hechzik. But the one thing, Reuven can claim, I never knew you put it. So Shimon is going to have to bring a raya that Reuven knew there was tit. How can he bring a raya? The best raya would be, you're kidding. You helped me put the mortar in or the cement in. Or he has to bring witnesses that know that Reuven saw it. Halacha ches. In the case that we're speaking about, Shimon does not own the wall. Reuven knew that he making use, and Reuven was quiet, so Reuven was Michael. And we learned in Halacha Zayin, he wasn't only Michael for the exact size of that beam. Shimon can now put in a wider beam. There's a limit to that. Shimon cannot put in more than one beam. Can make it bigger, can make it thicker, but he cannot put two. All of the above, all of the above is when Shimon is Maida, Shimon is Maida in all this. So he was Michael for even a bigger beam. He's not Michael for another beam. That's the worst thing that happens. You allow a guy to make some use. You are Michael for one beam. Shimon says, now you got a much bigger problem because since he's using it and he's claiming he's a shutiv, Reuven has to, the achrayis goes on Reuven. Even only b'koida achas, that will give Shimon the credit, the halachic credibility to claim, I'm a shutiv. Why would you let me? It's funny until it happens to you. What can I tell you? It's the comedy of life. And Hashem should help us that we should never do it to others. I'm sure we do that also. Maybe b'shoigeg, but be careful. Now, the only thing that Shimon will have to midrabanan, Reuven is claiming the wall is mine. Shimon is claiming, no, it's mine. I don't. So the rule is you have to make a shvur census. But then Shimon can put in 2 beams and 10 beams if Reuven doesn't have a right. Understand what happens when you're moichel. Rambam is not saying, God forbid, not to be moichel, just understanding what the implications are.
Before you allow one, make sure it's clear.
How do you do that? Make a document. You have all these people that become very, it's also Mekan Berech, and sometimes you deal with these people.
Like then most of them, they couldn't put a document together.
They didn't have how to write a document. I remember I once asked a very choshev Rav, tzaddik, all the milos, to deliver money to one of my sons or wherever, we're in yeshiva. Oh my God, what a document. And he was writing because he knew the halachas. He didn't want to. I said, dude, just do me a favor. I'm not going to go after you. He said, no. Put it down and it should be clear that if this happens, I'm not chayiv and achrayis. It's like, whatever, it was like $100 or a few $100. It was like, yeah. Okay. Halacha 9. I think if the Eibishter smiles, then it's all worth it. So I guess Reuven has beams in his wall. Umitzat Shimon, on the side of Shimon, there were already hollowed out areas in the wall, but no beams were ever put into there yet. Then says the Rambam, unlike Halacha Ches, even though there are many holes in the side of Shimon, like you would say, if the wall belongs to Reuven, why would he even allow him to put holes? Having a hole in there doesn't prove any ownership. Okay, but he didn't use it yet. Shimon says, no. Shimon says, you're kidding? If this wall would have been yours, why would I even have a hole there? Reuven answers, like this. I dug the holes on your side. I'm a very generous guy. I wanted for there to be something muchan, that when you decide to buy half of the wall, you should already have access to it. Or I just wanted for you to own the fact that I'm generous. I want you to ask of me to be moichel. Because I'm so, like, don't take me for granted. And you know what? When you're going to at least acknowledge how great I am, that I'm a moichel person, I want to be so moichel that I want you to be able to use it right away. Or at least because I don't want you to later, you're going to start knocking out holes and you're going to ruin my wall. whatever. Reuben,
He built it with walls with.
he built it that way, but he didn't. He's not Michael yet. He wanted it to be possible. Okay. Today's final chapter, Perek Chi, is we're going to learn more that I cannot build stuff in my property if it might damage your property. No, and we don't say what's mine is mine. No, we are neighbors, and therefore there are restrictions on me because of you. These are real. You saw this. What we call Hilchos Shchenim. Perek Chi has 13 halachas, starting with it's good. We could have slept another 2 minutes. Halacha Aleph says the Rambam. Lo yachbar adam boir v'lo shiach v'lo ma'ara. All these types of water reservoirs, a cistern, a trench, a storage vat. V'lo yavi amas hamayim, nor have a irrigation ditch, a water canal. V'lo yaseh b'reichas hamayim, nor can I make a pool in which people would do laundry, or today people would swim in. Oh, forget about swimming. That's a no thing. B'reichas hamayim lishur v'agadim. Huh? Lechibus. Bitzat kostlei shel chaveri, right adjacent to my neighbor's wall. Cannot do that because some things that I do will weaken your wall. Ela imkein hirchik b'koisel chaveri, for the ones that we mentioned. The Rambam is going to go into many details how far away. For the ones that we mentioned, 3 tvachim. Ubeis. Not only that, the yosud besid lekoisel barzeh, and the guy has to seal. He's making a brecha. So we all know that today, right? You make a pool and you have to put it, you have to put cement or they put lime. Not only do I have to keep it away 3 tvachim, I have to coat it with something that's going to limit or ideally take away the seepage of water, because that's the concern over here. Because even if I made it 3 tvachim away, you know what 3 tvachim is, guys? Think about it. It's not that much. If I'm not going to coat my new water reservoir, the water will seep out. And if my water will seep out, halacha beis. Right. You have to distance. Gefes is that when you are pressing olives, so you have the shemarim of the olives. It's very fermenting. It's very strong. It's called gefes. Yeah. Olive debris. Zevel is manure. Manure is also very strong. Melach, I think all items that have a koyach, melach, or sid. Sid is lime. And ve'esas, just to know, stones, like they're not acidy, but flintstones are. That's what the cell is over here. You have to distance it. Also, by water, guys, you have to do 2 things. Remember, you have to take it away 3 tvachim, and you have to put cement in it. Here, either or. It's not as bad as water. It means if you put it away 3 tvachim, you're good. If you want to bring it closer, then it has to be stored in something where sod basid. Next case. You have to keep away all plants. And you have to keep away the plow. The esaguma and a cesspool. What's a cesspool? A place. You have to keep a mill. You have to place a mill at the distance of 3 tvachim. But when we're speaking about a mill, just to know that when we're speaking about 2 stones, the way it is that the lower stone is wider than the top stone. So when the Rambam is saying that it has to be 3 tvachim, it means 3 tvachim from the bottom one. Now, normally, the width of the top one will be on that side of tefach less, which means, why is that? So the millstone will not cause tremors. It causes tremors, but if it's too close to the wall, then it's going to destroy the wall. 2 things. First of all, it can cause tremors. And number 2, even if it won't cause tremors, but noise is frightening. It's interesting. 3 tvachim away, it's not going to frighten you. And it's not comfortable. If it's too close to you, then you get a pachat. Allah chadal. You have to distance a oven from a koisel. Shloisha, here again, the oven is structured in a way that the lower part of it is wider than the top part. So when we speak about the distance, it's from the lowest part. It means that even no part can be within Shloisha mekarkiyasi, which will be 4 tvachim from its top. Misafasai. from its upper portion. Why? Here it's not about tremors and it's not about noise, but it's about heat. So it's important to know the reason, because today you build with different materials. We have materials that they never had. If there's a material today that Bichlal does not get ruined with heat, or the tanur is built in a way, like in our kitchens, the heat doesn't go outward, then it changes. But in those ovens with that wall, you have to keep it away 3 tvach. So they would have a certain stone, and they would beat garments until it became white. The stone doesn't dye it, but it would take out all of the dirt, so it would whiten it. That stone, wow, 3 tvachim, 4 tvachim, this is a huge jump. You can only use it 4 amas away. Why? Because it's used to bang the garments. Here there's another issue. When I'm clapping something that's damp or wet, the water is spritzing. And I don't want to constantly have water splashing on your wall. Halacha vav, and continuing with that concept, don't urinate on the wall or right near the wall. That urine will ruin the wall. That's only if the wall is made out of levanin, made out of bricks. So you have two, you have a stone and then you have marbles. Only 1 tefach is enough. Taka tefach, but not more. Tzechiach sela means marble. Then mashtin betzidoy beloy archakam. Got married many, many years ago. So I had a chaver of mine that showed me a picture of his son urinating on a wall in the house. Cute. And I was thinking, look at this guy. Like if I would see my kid doing that, I would chop my son away. He saw that, he chopped the camera. It's like a different, wow. Halacha zayin. Marchiken as asulam min hashoifech 4 amos. You have to keep a sulam. Why do you have to keep it away 4 amos? Anemiya is some sort of wild cat, whether it's a marten or whether it's a jaguar. Because if this chaya ra is going to have access, they're going to go and eat. They're going to have lunch. No, the point of all of this is that just because the joke with the mushel of a rowboat, I'm making a hole in my part of the rowboat. It doesn't work that way. This is responsibility that I have on my property, limitations, because I cannot damage your property. I have to distance area between the drain pipe that you have going down and a wall that I am building. 4 amos. Wow. It's very important. We learned in the last chapter that we were learning about someone who put a drain pipe over my property. You know what we're learning over here, guys? You put a drain pipe over your property, but it's at the edge of your property. Mamish at the edge. If I saw that and I allowed it to be there, the question is why? What? Who needs my mechila? No, anything that takes away my rights, I have the power to be moicha. And if I was not moicha, I was moichel. If your drain pipe is over your property, drain pipes, then even today, but then they need to be fixed. And in order to fix a drain pipe, you, the owner of the gag, you have to have enough space for you to put a ladder there, for you to have access. Now, if I don't have a wall, who cares? But if I'm building a wall and the wall is so close to your property, even though you have no window, it's not like the first chapter we're in today. I'm not casting any shadows on you, but I'm building it in a way that if there'll be an issue with your drain pipe, you push it, you want to have enough space to go in there and to fix your own drain pipe. I cannot do that. I cannot build something near your property that will disallow you to fix it when it's something that needs at times maintenance or fixing.
You know what I wonder, if the halacha for the last chapter, where the neighbor has the rights to receiving the water from the drain pipe.
Yeah.
Who has the obligation of clearing the drain pipe then? Is it the owner or is it the neighbor that gets the water?
The owner. The owner, because the neighbor, the neighbor has the right to the waters. The drain pipe belongs to the owner.
So he has to hire the Israeli to clean it out.
That's right.
And the ducks.
Halacha, it's a good business, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Hashem should bless all those to make a lot of money. Halacha test. Reuven shahaya koislei samach lekoisel Shimon kimin gam. So if you have like it's called perpendicular, right? It's like a letter L. So these are the two walls. Ubar Reuven lasis koisel sheni kineged koisel Shimon. So guys, Shimon, I know that whoever's using the Rabbi Steinsaltz's Rambam, they made a mistake here, with all the greatest respect, and they just put the names wrong. If Danny's going to put up the picture, just change the names, because that's the case of the Rambam. So Shimon's wall, it's almost coming up here. Here you go. So where it says Koisel Reuven, Danny, that has to be Koisel Shimon. That's the case over here.
Oh, really?
I think so.
The small one. So.
I think so. At least that's not. Let me just read it inside again. So Reuven has a wall near Koisel Shimon. Kimin Gam. Maybe not. Okay. Ubaru Uven Lasis Koisel Sheni. Connected to Koisel Shimon. No. The picture is correct. Picture is correct.
Yeah, the big wall, that's the second wall.
Yeah, the big wall over this, a big wall. That will make all of the three look like a base. You have to see a picture for this. Shimon only has one wall over here. Hare Shimon Ma'akiv Olav. Don't forget, guys, Reuven owns the little wall. Reuven owns the potential bigger wall. Shimon can stop. Now, I want to tell you something, guys. The space on the ground, if you look at the picture, all the way up to Koisel Shimon Daddy, all of that belongs to Reuven. But Reuven cannot put a wall there. He has to have his wall, which is opposite Shimon's wall, at least 4 amas. Why? Because, guys, when you build a wall on the ground, part of what this wall needs is for people to continuously walk on both sides of the wall, because that makes the earth firmer, and it affixes the wall in a more permanent way in the ground. And people will only walk in that space if there is 4 amas or more. I take back, that's exactly what the Rambam is talking about. The picture is perfect. That Shimon has some claim, even though Reuven is not placing it on Shimon's property. But Shimon says, but I need for people to walk there to make my wall stronger. That's only if it's a koisel of a gina. It's important, guys. A koisel of a gina, a garden is an area that is soft. Not too many people walk in the gina, and therefore it needs that for people to walk, and therefore you cannot do something that will disallow for that to happen. Oi, the koisel chatzer in a new city in which the earth is not yet so firm. Abel, when it comes to a koisel of a chatzer, and on top of that, it's be'ir yeshana. It's a city where many people lived there for many years. However, that's defined, which means that the earth is already very chazak. Kfar nischaska, then the halacha will be uboy the connected alayachaka. Because don't forget, it's Reuven can build on his property. Another detail. Im lo yehoya ba'oirech koisel Shimon shaboyne connected ela pachos ma'arba amas. All of this is that the width of Shimon's wall was 4 amas, and if it was less than that, then by the connected ain't a march. If Reuven's wall is so close, people won't be able to walk there. So the rule is that a wall shupachas me'arba amas does not need chizuk haaretz. Halacha you. Well, Mishaba lachbar bar b'soif sodeyu samach lemetzer chaver. Person is now digging out a cistern at the end of his field. I have a field guy sada, and you have a chatzor. The chapter began, Yakir, with what? With a koisel. Not about a koisel. I'm going near your boundary. What's the issue? The issue is that if you, the Baal Hasada, if your area is also designated for boiros, you cannot have 2 boiros too close one to the other. So im sadei chavedoi is not used until now to place their water reservoirs. So then I, Shimon, can bring my boy soimech, and the neighbor cannot make a macha. Now, if the Baal Hasada, who never used this field for boiros, will now want to put boiros there, but now let's say Reuven and Shimon, Reuven never used it for boiros, so Shimon had a right to put it all the way up to the Metzah. Now Reuven wants to build a boy there. Reuven is going to have to move it away. I want to tell you something just to chap this, that the walls of these boyros were 3 tvachim thick. The walls. He has to make it another 3 tvachim. If the wall of a boy is 3 tvachim, that means we're speaking about 6 tvachim now. Again, Reuven and Shimon. Let's say, I'm Shimon, you're Reuven. I want to build a boyd on my property, me Shimon, but near yours. If you already used your sada to make boydos, even though there is no boyd right over here, I don't have the right to bring it all the way there. I have to bring it in. Again, guys, what's going on? If I bring it in 3 tvachim and then I build a boyd, the walls of the boyd is 3 tvachim. That means that my water reservoir proper will already be 6 tvachim away from the meitzah. Everyone has that responsibility. The chiddush of halacha yud is that if Reuven never used this field for boyros, Shimon can build it all the way to the boundary, and otherwise each one can only begin 3 tvachim in. Right, halacha yud. Habayis v'aliyah. Right, we had this yesterday in the first chapter we learned yesterday. So you have 2 people that jointly own a house. So again, one is on top of the other, one is under the other. What are the things that people, because of that, cannot do? Lo yasa bal habayis tana b'tech beis. You cannot build an oven. LMK yesh loy al gabav. Only if from the top of the oven until the ceiling you have at least 4 amas. Why is that? Because there's a lot of heat, and if there's less than 4 amas, then ultimately it's going to ruin the ceiling. And we learned again yesterday, I think it was Perek Daled, that if that were to collapse, the lower story has to pay for the ceiling, but the topper story has to pay for the plaster and for his floor. So I'm ruining, I'm diminishing the longevity of the partition between the up and the down. The same thing the other way. The guy in the second story cannot put a tanner on the ground. Only if under the plaster, until the beams, you have 3 tvachim. The same by Akira, which is a range which is smaller than a tanner, the same.
4 tvachim.
I saw over here, shloisha tvachim. I mean, it says.
Same here too.
Shloisha tvachim. Now, one second. By Akira, tefach. We're not. There's many details. Akira is much smaller. Everything was standardized. So again, you have to know how to apply today. Now, if a tanner shel nachtaimin, which was bigger than the normal tanner, that's a baker, then you have to have underneath it 4 tvachim. Ubakira shel nachtaimin, shloisha tvachim. Another din, which is very important. Even when a person abided by these rules, it can still be that there's going to be damage. And when there is damage, this is something that we learned in Hilchas Niskim Amen, Perek Yud Daled. No one has the right to say that since what I did was kedin, if it did damage, I'm potter. We don't say that. There's 2 dinim. Number 1 is I can never say I'm doing it, and if it damages, I'll pay. I don't have the right to, because I don't have the right to damage. When Chazal says, okay, restrict yourself, and I did so. But if still it did damage, I will always be chayiv to pay. Like the Rambam paskin, even by Yaner Shel Chanukah, that will be the din. Even though it was lemitzvah, that's already a machlokes tanoim. Zicher that if I had reshus, no, it's reshus doesn't mean that I will be exempt.
Well, if there's an inus, like an earthquake or whatever,
doesn't make it. Then I didn't do the damage. Then we go back to Perek Daled. You know, when you have. Then I did not do the damage. Then that means I did not do the damage. Now, yes, mishalom ashehizik, as we learned the mekaymai again, which is niskimam and Perek Yud Daled. Now, halacha Yud Beis. If a person has a store is downstairs, and upstairs, right, is a storage warehouse. So what's going to happen? The guy in the top cannot use his storehouse to become a baker or to become a painter or to place over there behemalach refes bakon. Why is that? I'm sorry. So about the store. Forget the guy, and you cannot use the store for any of the above. Why? Forget about that. I'm giving all the space for the Tanam. Having a bakery there, even though I'm leaving the tfachim that I need to leave or the amas, because it creates warm air. I'm using my chanois. The warm air is going into the guy's top storage house, and it's going to be mafsid, whatever the guy is storing, not whatever, Pedro's produce. Now, the Rambam is writing why that's important, because interestingly, halachically, the wine of Eretz Yisrael is considered extremely strong, and it not only does not get ruined with heat actually makes it better. So if the guy in the warehouse, even though the guy can claim, today I'm storing wine, tomorrow I want to store something else. We don't say that. If what you are using it for is for wine, these restrictions don't apply. Heat is not a problem, but there are other problems that I cannot make at Efes Bakar. Because if I'm going to I'm making it into a barn, there's a bad odor. So there's the aroma of the wine, and then there is the heat that does not ruin, but no matter what, a bad aroma will ruin the wine. But now who comes first? Who came first is tantamount. If first the guy had a chanois and he already is doing it in there, and then the Baal Haliyah decided, you know what? I'm now going to make it into a warehouse. Too late. I already was kind of the chazaka. And the final halach in this chapter, halach Yud Gimel, Kibei Baal Haliyah v'Ripetz Aliyasi. So now that we established that the one that was there first, basically, will get to continue to do what they were doing. What happens if the guy in the warehouse did not actually use it yet for grain, but he was already doing things that indicated that he will be using it for an oitzah? Lo mashal. He cleaned it out, and he swept it out. And not only he swept it out, but you were merabetz. Merabetz means that when you have a earthen floor, not only do you sweep it out, but you would sprinkle water. Sometimes they would sprinkle wine to make all the dust settle. That's an act that you did to prepare a room to be a cleaned out room. You added windows. And you added windows because if you would have been using this for living, you don't need all these windows. Okay, since you're putting something that needs to have air, so you did a deed. You did not actually begin storing, but you did a maisa that indicates that you'll be using it for an oitzah. And now the guy downstairs, Chatarayim, says, "Oh my God, this guy is now making it into a oitzah. Now I won't be able to do X, Y, or Z. Let me do the X, Y, or Z right now." The kodem zeva asa nachtoim koidim sheyichnas aperes lo oitzah. One case. All of these cases, if I'm not mistaken, is a boidoli of shatan. Therefore, I'm waiting as we see in a moment. No, it's the after the fact. The guy in the second story already began to use sesame seeds, or he began to use rimoinim, or dates. And guys, I want you to know that in the Gemara Yakir, there is a suffix whether heat ruins these items. Produce gets ruined. These three items, there's a suffix whether heat ruins it. Now, and so the guy already had over there those things. So there was a storehouse for the money. This guy goes ahead and he becomes a baker. And now the guy in the Aliyah is saying you can't do it. Now, if there's a suffix, it's always hametz mechaveir olavarayim. Since the guy did not yet store chitim, he cannot stop him. Because he only used it for shumshumim. I get the claim, since there's a suffix, I'm using it for my benefit. What's my default right is to do whatever I want. You want to restrict me? Prove that what I'm doing is ruining it. You don't know that. That the owner of the store down is building an additional layer. Why? I'm building another ceiling, a ceiling under the ceiling. I'm doing something by indicating I want to build something that will prevent the heat of going up. By saying, no, I already have grain here. I have good. You want to do something new to be soymech on the tzad that two ceilings won't allow the heat to ruin. I'm going with the side that it will ruin. Status quo. So you have to keep status quo. But then because then he has now the status